Hello, my name is Angus MacLeod, and I would like to share with you some thoughts about facilitative coaching and the relationship with health. So where to start? I think the story today starts with neuroplasticity and neuroplastic change, because we now know that facilitative coaching done in the right way, and there are a number of components to this, done in the right way, create neuroplastic change in the brain, a rewiring of neurons in the brain to create new learning which sticks. Now that's quite interesting. It's also pretty interesting that for quite a long time now there's been a model called the triangles model. Now, I don't want to go into massive detail. Triangle suggests three elements to this, and essentially one of those elements is healthy and two of them are dysfunctional mindsets for health, for what happens in the body. So the connection, if you like, between mind and body is medically sourced from the literature and is now very well understood, although to be sure there's a lot more that we need to know in the coming years. Now there's a whole area of science, again been around for a long time, again medically driven, through psychoneuroimmunology. What's all that about? Well, that's about psychoneuro, so it's about the neurological structures of the brain and how those work in our psychological makeups, and how that relates to our immunology. What's happening in our hormones, in the chemistry of the body, when that chemistry is sourced, is beginning in mental processes through structures within the brain that are part of our hormonal system. So there is a lot of knowledge about this. For example, things like oxytocin, which is known to create a happy and useful learning state, and that is triggered by lots of things, by very good rapport, for example, and by physical contact with others. So there are also other hormones not so good, for example cortisol. It's known, for example, that women who are pregnant with children who are under a lot of stress release considerable amounts of cortisol, and it is this cortisol which modifies the structure of parts of the brain in the infant, the unborn neonate. Now those structures include the increase in size of a structure in the midbrain called the amygdala, and this is also the source of, for example, the triggering for cortisol release, thereby creating, if you like, extra stress in the growing child as it grows up. And in some cases the amygdala can be 3 times the normal size due to the nature effect in the womb of the mother caused by stress in her own life. That doesn't mean that that child will grow up on a path that is uncorrectable, that can't be switched to health, because it can. And people like Alan Wilson, he's worked with families, and Every Family Matters, shows us that by working with parents we can have radical effects when those parents go home to their children, and those effects have been measured by social workers, by the police who are involved as liaison officers, and by teachers in schools who have been interviewed in a research project. So we know that the effects of facilitative coaching interventions can, if you like, break the cycle caused by psychoneuroimmunology, which is dysfunctional, and can change it. Now, we can also know a lot about this simply by taking blood samples or saliva samples and measuring the presence of things in there. For example, cortisol, dopamine, noradrenaline, which would all predicate us to one of those 3 types of individuals, the psychology, if you like, that predicates us for a certain type of health. So one of those healthy, 2 of those dysfunctional, and the dysfunctional ones can be, if you like, mapped on the basis of the immune system and the presence of certain chemicals, hormones, neurotransmitters, for example, in the bloodstream and the saliva. So we have a measuring system, if you like, for the effectiveness of facilitative coaching as a means to shock the prefrontal lobe, to create new learning in the brain, and to change, if you like, the structure of mental health in order to promote a body change in our health as well, by a change in the chemistry of our bodies. And we can do that by taking samples of blood or saliva pre and post coaching. We've got a measuring system, if you like, there. Now that would be interesting, and most of coaches around are going to say, well, that's all very well, but I can't really see my coachees or my clients, companies, paying to go through blood and saliva tests before and maybe 6 months after coaching interventions have finished in order to measure that. So we're going to leave that to researchers. However, one of my colleagues, a remarkable human being, a neurosurgeon, psychoneuroimmunologist, Ian Weinberg, has developed over the last 10 or so years something which he calls a diagnostic. Now, this is a diagnostic, if you like, a test, a self-questionnaire that allows us now to make another mind-body link between what we're thinking and how we think, how we're structured to think, and our health. And this maps, the answers to the diagnostic map very, very beautifully with the chemical analysis from blood and saliva. In other words, through a self-questionnaire, it's possible to get a snapshot of the mental health of an individual, and it's possible 6 months after, let's say, coaching, to have another look at that self-questionnaire and see whether that is then different. And this then maps specifically right back to the chemistry and then tells us something about the health in the body. So what does that mean, health in the body? The two dysfunctional types lead human beings, this psychology, if you like, of ill health, leads in the body to predictable, and we're talking statistics now, we're not talking about individuals who smoke till they're 97 and then fall over in their sleep. We're now talking about statistical changes in human beings, by and large, what age they die at, how long they take to die, what the sort of diseases they have. And you can imagine, if we talked about cortisol, for example, you've got highly stressed individuals, what are they going to get sick with if they're highly stressed? Yeah, you've guessed. So, they're going to get ulcers and so forth, they're going to get coronary artery disease, you may get joint problems and so forth, associated with the stress and other factors. So we've got, if you like, predicates for health based in the brain and the chemistry and understanding of that in the body. And now we have a diagnostic, a self-questionnaire, which maps against those blood tests, meaning we don't need to do those as practicing coaches and coachees and client companies. We can actually measure the effect. So this is a really great and exciting thing, not only for the health of the people that we can work with, but also for people who want to measure and know that there is sustainable change through facilitative coaching as well. But I wouldn't expect you just to take that from me, and I don't work alone. So I've already mentioned Ian Weinberg, for example, who is a neurosurgeon, psychoneuroimmunologist, an extraordinary man. I'd like you to meet with him, I'd like you to have contact with him, and you must of course also have contact with another colleague of mine, Michelle Duval, international coach and author, and her story as well, which I want you to hear directly from her. She was given about 2 months to live. She had her own chronic diseases which were killing her over 10 years ago, and it's great to know that she is a vibrant, creative and amazing coach based in Sydney, New South Wales, and a colleague of mine. Very, very proud to work with Michelle and with Ian in creating and developing the science of facilitative coaching and its effect on the psychology of human beings, on the rewiring of the brain, and ultimately not just for performance, not just for well-being or sustainable performance in our lives, but also to impact on the health of people. This is a very exciting time to be a coach. If you want to learn more, then please sign up, because I will then make sure that you get articles, that you get access to peer review articles after they're published, of course, the peer reviews, that you get access to maybe podcasts, access and invitations to join me, to join Ian Weinberg, to join Michel Duval on teleclasses, for example, or to meet us directly at events that we will be organising under the brand of Infuse over the coming years. So it's an exciting time. Please sign up, and I'm not going to bombard you with all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to sell you t-shirts, but you're very welcome to buy my books, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you very much for listening.